these wars, always a young too far. Now looking our way forward with the saber and the gun. Tell me, is it worth it all? For I flew to find a mission in the Japanese sky. Set off the mighty mushroom roar when I saw the...
It's the best course I've had at Temple so far.
We're dealing with dissent in America, so we're going all the way back to the 19th century. And one of the assumptions of the course, I think, is that political and social change is often accompanied by aesthetic change. What I find very interesting for this course is it's one venue at the university where students can learn something about subjects that are not very commonly broached in academic discourse. What is anarchism? What is terrorism? What is separatism? What is libertarianism? We deal with a lot of these isms that we've come to recognize as part of political ideologies. So we look at where they intersect and where they overlap and what distinguishes one from another.
The class is great because we look at a lot of sort of controversial literature that sort of deviated from the mainstream of what was being put out at the time.
The course is based upon some primary works of literature and history. So each week we do usually a historical work and we talk about the context of the period or moment or movement that is on the table for the week. And then we read an accompanying work of literature along with it. We begin the course with some very controversial works in the post-9/11 era. One of the works we do is an essay by Ward Churchill, a University of Colorado professor whose tenure was revoked after he made comments comparing World Trade Center victims to little Eichmanns. We also discuss a novel by Nicholson Baker entitled Checkpoint, which is basically a test of the limits of free speech in the post-9/11 world as it dramatizes the planning of the assassination of a sitting president. We look at books by Noam Chomsky, which were recommended by Hugo Chavez in front of the UN in 2005, I believe. And we also look at a book by William Bloom, a political scientist whose work was recommended by Osama bin Laden in 2000. And so these are highly controversial works, and one of the things we want to do in the course is kind of bring those controversies to light, certainly not perhaps advocating the arguments made in those works, but talking about the controversies and what issues they raise.
And it's just great to be able to study those opinions because most of that stuff just gets filtered out and we don't hear about it at all.
One of the things I did for the course, which is very exciting, is a YouTube channel that pulls together hundreds of videos that are available on that website for students' use. Among them we have popular music from the 60s and 70s and 80s and protest music and live readings of poems and interviews with Noam Chomsky and Michel Foucault. Another thing we're doing at the end of the semester is having a friend of mine who is a folk singer come into the class, and we're going to talk about the development of popular music in America throughout the 20th century. And we're going to begin with folk music in the early 20th century and talk about its relationship to romantic poets, the ballad tradition, and other forms of populist musical expression. And he's going to intersperse some songs, and we're going to move into the 50s and 60s, and he may do a Phil Oakes song or a Bob Dylan song or another popular folk singer to give students an idea of what the music sounds like.
We look at a lot of ideas that you don't usually talk about in a college classroom and that you may not get to talk about even in public a lot of the time.
I love talking to students about the issues that are raised by texts, whether they're philosophical issues or political issues. I love being part of enriching students' experience in academia. I joke with students that sometimes I feel like a DJ. We're going all the way back to 1856. Here's Walt Whitman,